Okay, Oscar fans, let's go back to where it all began when we were tracking the Derby in 1999 at Gold Derby. We were trackside with Jack Mathews, who was then with the New York Daily News, previously with LA Times, USA Today, Detroit Free Press. Am I leaving anything out, Jack?
No.
Those are the biggies. Thelma Adams, Us Weekly, and lots of other affiliations.
And I think I was at the New York Post when we started out.
Oh, isn't this amazing?
And Yahoo.
And Yahoo since. And we are the original Gold Derby right here. It was Jack was interviewing me at the Daily News, and the New York Film Critics thing was coming up. He goes, "Oh, well, come as my guest." And I said, well, isn't that great? Thanks. I had just asked Jack to join, and I had people like Pete Hammond and Dave Carter I knew join, but I didn't know where to go beyond that. I walked up to Thelma at the New York Film Critics, and I said, "Hey, you want to join Gold Derby?" And she says, "What's that?" And I explained, and she goes, "Sure." And then you leaned over and you grabbed Gene Seymour. She goes, "Hey, Gene, join Gold Derby." And he goes, "What's that?" She goes, "Oh, never mind. I'll explain later." And it was hilarious. And so here we are all together. And I want to start with Jack because anybody who knows what a legend and a genius this guy is would not be surprised to know that the one major upset we had last year, Mark Rylance for Best Supporting Actor, was predicted by Jack. He told us so. And Jack, how did you know? How did you know, Jack?
Tom, I'm sorry, but you just went out.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
I do. I can hear you. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So how did you know about Mark Rylance last year?
Well, we talked about that last year before. All along, it was one of those performances that I saw. When I saw it, I said, that's the Oscar winner right there. My thinking on it was, and there are a lot of movies where that's happened, where one performance comes in as a supporting and it changes the whole dynamic of the movie. And that did. That movie would not have worked without that performance. Now, it was in the script, so whoever played that role would have had the same challenge. But Mark Rylance was so perfect in that, in terms of being the likable antagonist or the spy, playing opposite Tom Hanks. Now, he had to be, the audience had to connect with him and find him likable and for that movie to work, to make that bridge of spies at the end resonate. And it did, and I never saw anything else that like it. I didn't see any performance that I would have put ahead of it. So that's just how it felt to me, and so that's what I did.
So look at this year. What does a similar thing pop out at any of the 4 performance categories?
I got to say it doesn't. I haven't seen any of those where I just thought, wow, that's it. I think the narrowing down of the field that has gone on is pretty accurate. I don't see any real glaring omissions or any that would bother me that much, but I think there's some favorites here that may not be as in solid shape as they look. Casey Affleck certainly looks like a lock for Best Actor, but I'm not sure he's that much of a lock. And Ryan Gosling was, and I would have thought if Ryan Gosling was considered a front runner, I think that would be a very weak candidate. I mean, I like movie. I like La La Land. I'm not as high on it as you and some of the others, but I don't think La La Land's going to win. I think you were talking to Pete Hammond last week, and he talked about maybe it being the biggest winner of Oscars since West Side Story, or
well, he was saying it could get the 14 nominations, tying that record. Yeah,
win 12 of the 14 or something like that. I don't think it's going to do that well. I think it's going to win 7 or 8, but it's a different body. The Academy, when they start voting, they have a totally different interest in what's going on in the movie. So, like I've always said, this critical opinions, throw them out when you get down to the last batch. When you get down to the Academy voters, critics don't matter to them.
But our friend Thelma here can give us, I think, one of the best historic examples of a contrary view of that. I remember, Thelma, you, and I think it was you personally that started this ricochet effect. Marcia Gay Harden, both of you guys were at the New York Film Critics. Everyone else was picking some other people that year, and you guys didn't you gotta get that ball rolling
For Pollock?
at the circle?
Was that for Pollock,
Yes.
for Marcia Gay Harden?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all along, I think one of the things that Jack said that, throw the critics out, and I agree. And this year, you can clearly see that. But what the critics do is they identify certain performances that are super strong that may have been overlooked. We don't even have to go back to Marcia Gay Harden, now a TV star of TV and TV. I think this year the one is Isabelle Huppert. That was a case where no one in their first list of 5 Best Actress nominations would have put Isabelle Huppert, and now she's a serious contender. Oh no, yeah, I did. I put her number 1 because I feel like one of the things that we have to do is not act as a pack. Sometimes the danger of Gold Derby is that we're all in such agreement and then surprised by something. It's interesting to see who takes a risk, who looks outside of the box. I think Isabelle Huppert would be an example. I think the really interesting one to watch in the Best Actor race is to see if Viggo Mortensen has any strength for Captain Fantastic. That, I think, was one of the performances of the year that showed such range and depth of emotion and was so unpredictable. And I'm not saying he's going to win, but I think there's a good chance he'll be in the 5.
I was kind of wondering the other day, where does the Captain Fantastic and Hell and High Water nominations come from in this award season?
Good question.
Not that they're not deserved, but they don't kind of line up with the big studio stuff. You've got Bleecker Street there, for example, with Captain Fantastic. And I looked through the calendar that we run at Gold Derby of when the DVDs were sent out, and sure enough, both of those movies were sent out in early November, telling us that, again, it's important to get out of the box early. They will watch the DVDs if you send it to them, and boy, it paid off for those 2 films. But let's talk about the Isabelle Huppert thing. I think it's fascinating. She pulled off an upset at the Golden. She pulled off an upset at the Golden Globes. She's going to get nominated for the Oscar, and that there are 2 patterns in the Best Actress race we need to take seriously. One is the ingenue, like Brie Larson last year, or Jennifer Lawrence, or Charlize Theron. But the other is the mature, still babe, the Julianne Moore, right? Kate Blanchett.
But I think Huppert is something interesting. If you talk about this being ultimately the Academy deciding, Huppert is the actress's actress, so that she's not the ingenue. She is the actress who's been around forever and never been nominated. But when you talk to someone like Jessica Chastain, she'll say, who do I admire? Isabelle Huppert. Like, there's a whole generation of actors that look at her and see class.
If I can get in here, because I agree that with everything you've said about Isabelle Huppert, I don't think this is her year, though. I loved Elle, and she was on my list early on. She's a terrific actress, but I think this is just one category where you can say Emma Stone is pretty much locked. La La Land is one sure thing. That's it. It has many sure things, but that is certainly one of them.
Really, my question is, and Tom, you please jump in. This is my question with Emma Stone, who I adore, and if she had gotten nominated for Birdman for supporting, great little part. She's great in everything. I'm curious. I don't know the answer. I'm curious about La La Land and the songs and the singing, and that ultimately she's a lead who should be able to really sing. And I think Ryan Gosling can't sing at all. We know that. He's doing the Rex Harrison. But I just feel like for an Academy that has lived through Vicente Minnelli, that knows all the great musicals, I'm wondering if in the end there'll be, what do you call it, election box, or when you're in the polling booth, there'll be a moment of doubt with Emma Stone.
I totally agree with that, but for different reasons, though. That she she's clearly the favorite, as Jack and you were saying, because first of all, she's riding that Best Picture
right
bandwagon, and that took in Jean Dujardin, who would never have won an acting award in his life if it hadn't been for that fluke. And she's got all that, but she has some negatives if you think about it. One is that it's not a transformative performance. It's not Helen Mirren is the queen, and I'm leading up here to Natalie Portman. It doesn't have a lot of gravitas. It doesn't have a lot of gravitas. It doesn't have pretension. You know, Huppert has pretension, and these other things do. And that snob appeal is what took Mark Rylance in last year, this British stage star and so on, even though the man never campaigned and lost SAG and lost the Globe. But Best Picture usually wins an acting award, but not always. Certainly Spotlight didn't last year, Slumdog, there are many other examples. However, Birdman is a good example. Michael Keaton should have had that in the bag. He portrays an actor, for Christ's sake. Natalie Portman, I think, is a viable candidate, and I'm just going to stick with her because I think that just for now, I think she's going to lose SAG to Emma, because for a lot of various reasons. That's the only la-la vote you have there, since it's not up for ensemble. And I mean, and Ryan's nominated.
It's interesting because that shows weakness.
Let's get.
Yes.
Maybe
it's
so.
Not up
Maybe
for
so.
ensemble?
But Jack, you and I and Thelma have all been around long enough to know the mystique of Jackie Kennedy and the mystery of her and the allure, the transformative performance, you know, famous person portraying famous person. And don't tell me, oh, Natalie won 6 years ago. Who cares? She's in the honeymoon period, right? Of Hilary Swank, Christoph Waltz, Sean Penn. So why not Natalie Portman? What's your case? Size her up.
Yeah, I don't have anything against her performance. I think it's a great performance, and I originally thought she would probably be the lock when I saw that. But here, I'm going to go back to why I think Emma Stone is so has this locked. You know, if you think La La Land has heart, which I think you all do, everybody does. Everybody's picking it to win. If the movie has heart, she is she's the heartbeat of it. And everybody, if
the movie has heart, she's the aorta.
Ryan Gosling could be played by just about anybody. It would do the same performance, and could be just as bad as he is in terms of singing and dancing. But and her singing isn't all that horrible compared to his. It's beautiful, but she's
but compared to Lea Michele, you know,
this is a movie where it doesn't matter. You know, we've gotten away from that My Fair Lady where you replace, you know, you have Audrey Hepburn's voice dubbed. We're way past that, and we're past hiring actresses or singers first and actors second, like Chicago. You know, there you got, Renee Zellweger couldn't sing or dance, and even on the screen she couldn't sing or dance, but she was, you know. It got great reviews.
Well, you know what, though, in fairness,
let's address the Natalie Portman issue. Why do you think that's not a winner? Because I have an answer once Jack has answered.
Go ahead.
I don't think it's a winner because I don't think it's a winner because I don't think Jackie has much support as a movie. It doesn't seem to have. You're not scoring anywhere else. It's you know, it'll get some costume and cinematography perhaps awards. But it's not a movie that has, you know, established itself as a big Oscar movie to me. It's a very
so do you say, would you say, Jack, that it's off the top, that we may not even get 10 Best Picture, we may get 8, and that Jackie won't even be on that list? Question mark.
Yeah, I think most people think it's not going to be on the list. But, you know, Jack, we have had winners recently like La Vie en Rose and others in the Best Actress race. Julianne Moore's movie, they weren't nominated for Best Picture either.
No, I'm not saying that was. But
Bill Alice, yeah.
Thank you, yeah.
You know, it's just compared to the competition. I mean, you just got to think, you know, though I don't know who was up against Marion Cotillard back then or not, or who it was, but I just think the competition here is you've got all these people. Now, if the Academy members are as excited about La La Land as everybody else has been,
which is not guaranteed, baby. It's not. That's not guaranteed that they're as excited.
I agree.
And I want to step into this Natalie Portman because A, I don't think she's going to win. B, I think one of the reasons people aren't excited about Jackie, as particularly in the Academy, is that they've lived through it. I've seen Jackie. You know, they have this image of Jackie, and I felt it was a very brittle and studied performance. So even though Natalie Portman is someone who's very popular and who is playing every card she has, and she's in every frame of that movie, I think the movie's kind of flat and dull. And that's in part due to her performance.
Ooh!
Yeah!
Oh!
Ouch!
Not only are you wrong, the Oscar gods should punish you for that, Thelma. Oh, thank God there's 3,000 miles separating us. Oh, Jack, you guys are so cruel. Anyway, I can see that she's
Okay.
out front, that Emma's out front.
But on the other hand, going in a different direction, is the Academy going to completely forget about Loving, which is one of my favorite movies of the year, and
Yeah,
Ruth
it's too
Negga,
understated.
who I think is fantastic in that movie?
She's too understated, though. I've got a wild conspiracy theory for you. Let's assume Meryl Streep gets in, right, and talk about a singing performance. If she
But she
steps
can
up,
sing.
wait a minute, though. But if she steps up one more time and takes on Donald Trump as the liberal conscious firebrand of Hollywood taking on Washington, suddenly we're back to the Jane Fonda Best Actress years, where sometimes it's not even about the movie. It's just like it's just rally behind the firebrand lady at the podium. Is there even a remote chance if Meryl? I think she would need one more step up against Trump. That in a crowded race where you've got a lot of Isabelle Huppert votes and you've got all your Natalie Portmans and your Emma votes, is it possible Meryl could sneak in and win?
Not
No.
win. Jack?
No, she can win, and I don't think she's going to get nominated. But I just don't think the movie is going to be taken. I like the movie. I will say that straight up, and I think the acting is good across the board. They could have had an ensemble nomination from SAG, but it's not an Academy movie. It just really isn't. It's just a novelty to them, I'm sure.
Well, we could go through that list and say Hell or High Water is not an Oscar movie. It's kind of that interesting. But I want to go back because we're missing one major actress on that 5. Annette Bening, often nominated, fantastic in 20th Century Women. Is she again going to be hurt because 20th Century Women does not have a lot of support for the film itself?
I'm shocked, Thelma, that she has not been resonating on the awards front, considering she's on the board of governors. She's a 4-time past nominee, and it's not like Meryl, where Meryl Streep's got a great performance every year. Annette Bening, takes very few roles every few years, and then she gets a showcase like this and does a spectacular job, and it's not getting the recognition we would normally expect. It's surprising. Jack, where do you stand on that? Annette Bening.
I think she should be nominated. I think it's a great performance. I think it's really the only great attribute of that movie. It's a woman's movie to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you should be sorry. It's a movie, and there are women in it.
I liked it. My feminine side liked it.
Okay, what happens?
I don't know about that.
What happens to poor Amy Adams? Assuming she gets nominated, she loses again. She joins that pantheon of Glenn Close, Deborah Carr, and Thelma Ritter as the biggest loser among actresses. What do they have against Amy Adams?
Nothing. They don't have anything against her.
I'll jump in and say this: if Emma Stone does not win, I think Amy Adams is the most likely.
Really? Wow.
And I think
Explain.
Everybody loves her. She's given great performances. Been nominated several times, and she is that's a one movie, by the way, that I absolutely don't get. I don't know why it's a British favorite. I don't know why it's getting awards, nominations elsewhere. I think she is great in it, but and so I think that this would be the time for her. She's really turned that to me somewhat. It's a movie, a science fiction movie, that is so ponderous otherwise without her performance.
Okay. Boy, we're really in counterpoint territory here, which I know that Tom loves. He loves this kind of thing. I saw Arrival I arrived at Arrival a little bit late. And when I saw it, it just blew me away. I was weeping. The end was unexpected. It's a Denis Villeneuve movie with a sci-fi side to it. It's very interesting and moving. And I think that you've noticed that the Academy has given it a lot of respect, or that the previous, it's there because many people find the movie resonant. Not in your classic sci-fi space, but I would say a larger audience.
Yeah, and of course it was done very well at the box office, as has Hidden Figures. Thelma, where do you come down? Yeah, where do you come down on Taraji, Thelma? Because Taraji, past nominee for Benjamin Button. She's got that big Oscar scene here, that big defiant speech she gives, or at least she lashes out. Can she make the list?
I think that she's late to the gate, and it's a really busy list. And I would say that if someone comes in late at the end, it's going to be Meryl undeservedly as part of the 5. I don't anticipate Taraji being part of that 5.
I don't know where I come down on that. I haven't seen that year. The movie has obviously gained momentum in the last few weeks. It's the number. What do they call it with a bullet? It's rising faster than any. I think
number 1 with the bullet.
Have a shot at it more than Streep for sure. I don't know who else I would take off of that list though. I mean, Annette Bening I think is in.
Oh, you do? Okay.
So I don't know if I would.
So does that take Nega off because people feel so?
Nega's not getting in. No.
She's not getting in.
I don't think she is, and I think it's tragic. I think
it's tragic. And even Joel Edgerton, such a fantastic Best Actor performance. But again, it's the quietness of it, the lack of a big courtroom scene, which is exactly what I love about Loving. That also at the same time is making it not resonate on the big awards platform.
Jack, go ahead.
I had Loving very high on my list all along until it suddenly just started disappearing from everybody else's radar. I thought if this is an Academy movie, if they're, it's got all the elements Academy people like, plus they were all alive. Most of them were alive when the story took place.
Right.
It's such an important issue. It's so well, the story is so well told, in my opinion. It has to be quiet because this wasn't a division of highs and lows. I mean, it took them some time to get this.
Right.
Get this victory. Huge victory for civil rights in this country. Academy members tend to like civil rights movies that push civil rights, and that should be high on their list.
Jack, a minute ago, earlier in this video, you said that Casey Affleck is out front but is vulnerable. Who could take him down if anyone does?
Well,
your options are Denzel, Ryan Gosling, Andrew Garfield, Viggo, Tom Hanks.
Probably the most likely one to take it down. I mean, Fences is not doing well across the board, I think, because it's a play. And but I think Denzel's work in it, both the directing, which he didn't get a DGA nomination. He might not get a Directors Guild, Academy nomination for that. But his performance is really wonderful. And so I think that's, to me, that's a much more, what's the word, adventurous or bold performance. Casey Affleck's so underplayed. I mean, it's a great performance by Casey Affleck, but it's a matter of underplaying. And so I don't know how they're going to weigh that. I would think Denzel's got a good shot to upset.
I agree with that. Thelma, what do you think?
I'm still going with Casey. I look at the rest of the list, and I'm not feeling anybody. Lord knows I personally like Viggo, but there's no way he's going to upset. So right now it looks like Casey.
Casey by default, yeah. But Jack's got such a good point. They like the big bombastic performance. They like that sledgehammer emotion. Casey delivers it in a very subtle way, but with master effect, of course. But Denzel, let's remind everyone who may not know this. Denzel's won twice before. One more, he will tie the Jack Nicholson, Walter Brennan, and Daniel Day-Lewis for the most wins among male actors with 3. Hepburn has 4 on the female side. So Denzel, if you can imagine anyone out there now as joining that league of 3, just in terms of pure worthiness, Denzel is like top of your list anyway, regardless of the performance of the movie, right?
Yeah,
you know what? I'm going to hold Casey.
I think Casey. If I had to bet, which I am on Gold Derby, I think Casey's going to win. But I'm just saying, I would not be surprised at all if Denzel won. And what? This is a funny thing. The one thing we're not talking about is this racial issue left over from the last couple of years and how that's affecting the Academy now that they've got
or the last 10 decades. I think it's left over from the last decades. It's not just the past 2.
Well, it was the past 2 that got all the attention for being white, but this year they've got so many obvious contenders that Denzel, is it going to help him at all? Is Taraj help her at all? Are they going to look at this stuff? It's
going to help Mahershala Ali.
Sorry?
I think that it's going to help Mahershala Ali in Best Supporting Actor. There's some clear things where, again, before we leap to that, I wanted to say also that as Manchester by the Sea weakens, I think Casey Affleck's position on the top strengthens because he comes to represent the entire movie. So if Manchester isn't going to get a Best Picture, he'll at least get Best Actor. Going on to the racial issue, it's interesting because obviously this year there's going to be this compulsion after Oscars So White, or this need to show that African-American artists are being recognized. It doesn't change anything on the ground that it's still white men directing, producing, et cetera, et cetera. But given that, we do see a lot more in all the acting categories, a lot more African-American figures. I think Mahershala Ali, also running for Moonlight, the entire movie, is super strong in that category, in the supporting actor.
But Jack, I want you to address this because I would have agreed with everything that Thelma had said right before the Golden Globes. And sure enough, Moonlight was so strong at the Globes it won Best Drama Picture. But Mahershala didn't win. He got toppled by Aaron Taylor Johnson in a jaw dropper for all of us, going, what is that all about? Is he more vulnerable, Mahershala, than we think? Because, boy, that there is criticism that he's not a presence in the latter half of the movie. There is is he a lock to win?
Yes.
Why?
He is a lock.
Is he just this year's Alicia Vikander? He's in everything, so he wins.
No, I think the performance is just stunning. It's one of those, maybe that was the one I should have mentioned earlier when you asked me about Mark Rylance, if I'd seen anything this year. That closest to that. That performance just leaps out of the screen and it sticks with you, even though he disappears a third of the way through the movie. He's just wonderful, and he gives that movie heart in the very beginning, and makes so many people in there, interesting. Anyway, I think it's for that. And I think he'll win for that. He should win for it. And I can't see anybody. Jeff Bridges is terrific in Hell and High Water, but he's playing Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, also what's interesting with the Aaron Taylor Johnson is Nocturnal Animals as a contender. And it also may be interesting that Focus Features has both Loving and Nocturnal Animals and has not been able to get the traction that maybe they deserve. Although I love Nocturnal Animals. I love it. I love Amy Adams in that movie, Jake Gyllenhaal, but people ran from the theater. It really split people. I loved it, but I know that there are people who passionately don't like that movie. So I
loved it.
Yeah. that's an interesting, sometimes it's the ones in the middle that kind of last. I'm curious to see how far Midnight is going to go and whether it's displaced Manchester by the Sea.
I know. And what's fascinating about this race is Manchester by the Sea is going to get a ton of nominations, and of course, it's a front runner to win Best Actor. It's picked up some Best Picture awards along the way, and this is Amazon. This is a streaming service now in the Oscar game, and this is a revolution happening in front of us in a major category. We saw it recently at the Emmys, where Amazon came in with Transparent and shook things up, and then they just did with Billy Bob Thornton's win at the Golden Globes on the TV side. Streaming services at the Oscars. I mean,
Tom, pause. I want you to pause because I want you to know that the people behind Amazon, who you know, Ted Hope, Bob Burney, who's, I guess, is their marketing chief. He has a huge title there. He was the person behind Big Fat Greek Wedding. These are guys, yeah, they're at Amazon streaming now, but they have decades of experience in movies. So in a sense, yeah, it's Amazon streaming, but it's also guys that we've known all along who've been getting awards.
And they are competing in the theaters. These are theatrical releases. They're not
Right.
actually streaming them. But what I'm leading up to is that we're seeing on the award scene these major players. Look, Jack, we had Netflix make a major presence in recent Oscars with documentaries and so forth. And the game is changing, and the media is blurring. And where's it all going, Jack?
Well, it's all going digital for sure. But you got, even there was an announcement that they're going to do the Oscar nominations now digitally rather than having a presentation of those nominees. It's just all going there. Everything's going that way. Where did it ultimately go? I think those and in particular, they have such an advantage over major studios. They've got kind of unlimited capital in a way to go after them. Right now, I think to the general public, putting a name Netflix or Amazon carrying the movie is not a positive thing. Later on, if they win, which they're very desperate to get a winner, so that they can put Amazon or Netflix and
We're having a bad connection here suddenly. Thelma, I'm going to let you have the final word here. Best Director. In recent Oscars, we've seen a lot of splits between picture and director. We saw it last year with Revenant winning director and Spotlight winning picture. And I think the reason for that is you now have two different voting systems for those two awards.
Right.
You rank Best Picture, but you actually check off a winner for director. Is Damien Chazelle a slam dunk can't lose this year along with Lala? Are we seeing them finally dancing step to step the two categories again, or is he vulnerable?
You know what? I think he's strong. I have him right now. I'm predicting him for Best Director. I just myself am a little doubtful.
Who would win if he didn't?
You know what? If you look at that group, Barry Jenkins, it's a relatively green group. If you wanted to dig deep into who I think did a great job, I would say Tom Ford. I find that category somewhat confounding, and so I'll go with the simple thing and say Damien Chazelle. In fact, I like Whiplash better than La La Land.
Oh wow, Jack, yours was the audio we were having trouble with. Let's give it one last chance here to Best Director. Where do you stand?
Well, I think Damien Chazelle will win, but if La La Land has the universal support it appears to have, otherwise I would think Barry Jenkins is going to win. I think Moonlight is really. I know you weren't wild about it. I just think it's such a unique and deeply felt, intimate film that's very current, and I think it's basically a better job of directing too. So, and I think the directors branch and Academy tend to know that.
Yeah. All right, we have heard from the Oscar gods, you all. Thank you.
You're blessed.
And we're gonna make this a tradition continuing forward now that we've all mastered Google Hangout. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for hanging out. Bye.
Catch you later.
Bye.